Hello everyone, in CSS part 2, in CSS chapter 2, we are gonna talk about selectors in detail. In CSS chapter 1, I have just told you that what is a selector, and when we create a style file, let's say I'm creating a style file, and in that I wanna apply styling to different HTML elements. So in order to apply style for a particular HTML element, what we will do is that we use selectors. Through selectors only we will give style to a particular element. And if you recall the structure of selector, first of all we will write what type of selector we are using. After that we will give curly opening bracket, and in that what property you want to change. Let's say you want to change about background color of a particular color, right? So particular element, so you'll give background color as property colon and its value. What background color? Let's say I want to change the background color as red, then I will give red here. After that, statement terminator and a closing curly bracket. So this is a general structure of a selector, and selector is a very broad topic, so we cannot like cover each and every type of selector, but in this chapter 2 we will try to like cover mostly the things which we generally use, which are important. We will try to cover that, right? So yeah, let us begin with this chapter. And before we start this chapter, in the comment section I have given you a GitHub link, right? So I have provided you a GitHub link. So I want you guys that if you don't have any GitHub account, then please create it, because in future when we are gonna do projects, we are gonna do all the projects. I will give you a template, and using that basically HTML code, and using that HTML code we will finesse it, we will build something out of it, right? So I want you guys to have first of all GitHub account. It is really important. As a developer you should have GitHub account, right? So first of all, create GitHub account if you don't have a GitHub account. Now after creating GitHub account, go to the link which I have provided in the comment section. When you go to the link, you will see a folder called as CSS chapter 2, and in that you will find a file called as index.html, and in that file you will see different code, like a structure code which I have used as a sample file. So I have a sample file, and on this sample file I am trying to apply whatever the concepts that we have learned. Okay, in selectors we are going to talk about different types of concepts like class selector, ID selector. They are different concepts. So what we will do is that on top of this file, for this file I will try to implement the concepts which we have learned. So it is really important to download this file. So on GitHub you will go into the file, and on top right corner you will see a download button, and click on the download button. Immediately this file will get downloaded in your computer, and whatever the folder you are using in this chapter, for our development I have created a folder called as developer basics, right? So in that folder only I am gonna do all my code. But you might have created some other folder, right? You might have created a folder called as my first development class. So copy and paste that index.html file in that corresponding folder. Whatever the folder you are using, copy that and paste it in that folder. Okay, this is a prerequisite. Without this file, without this index.html, you cannot like cope up with us, you cannot like be with us, right? Because I want you guys to be with me, and if you are with me, then you will understand the concepts in a better way. Okay, so this is a file. Let me show you a file. So this is a file which we have here, right? In the development basics, this is the development basics folder I am having, and in that I have downloaded a file. I have created a file called as index.html, and I have provided this to you guys, right? In the GitHub account you will find this HTML file. Now what I did is that in this file I have linked my CSS. We know that how to link a separate CSS file with my HTML document using link tag. So in the head I have written link href is equals to style.css, which is my CSS file name. Rel is equals to style sheet. This is how I have linked my HTML with my CSS, and this is a CSS file. So this is my CSS file which I am having. Inside it I am not having anything, like literally it is nothing, right? So this is the folder I'm having. In the development folder, I'm having index.html and style.css. And let me show you the file also. So let me save and go to the file. I will run this file here. This is my page, right? This is a Medium page. If you don't know Quora or Medium, these are the blogs which we generally follow. Like Quora, you might have known Quora, right? Similarly, for intellect, for developers, we use Quora. Whenever you get a doubt, you can write, okay, I have this query from Quora or from Medium. Then you will find this kind of page, right? Not this exactly, but yeah, you will find the solutions to your answer, like questions, all this kind of things. Okay, yeah. So we have tried to build some similar page using our basic knowledge, right? In this we have heading, buttons, 2 input boxes, and some anchor tags. After that, this is the link I'm having, and if I click on this anchor link, it will redirect me to another page. We don't have any page, that is why it is showing error. Yeah, this is how we have a page. Now let us recall how a selector look like. So a selector look like this, something like this, right? First of all, we will write type of selector, what type of selector we are gonna use, right? And type of selector, we have different types we will talk about, but on that particular selector your styling will get applied. For example, let's say that in a page I'm having one h1 tag, and one paragraph tag, and I want to give styling to this paragraph tag. Then what I will do is that I will use a type of selector, and the name of the type is element selector. So I will write here element selector, what element I want to choose. After that, opening bracket and property, let's say I want to change the color to red, semicolon, like this. So this type of selector, this element, for a particular element I am giving styling. So this is known as element selector. We will talk about, no worries at all, no confusion, zero confusion. Okay, we will talk about it. Yeah, so this is a basic structure of a selector. Now let us begin with our first type of selector. Right, in selectors we have different types. In selectors we have different types, like universal selector, element selector, class selector, id selector. Like this we have n number of different types of selectors, and what we will do is that in this lecture we will follow a fashion. First of all, we will study about a particular selector and the concepts which we have grasped here. We will go in our code and we will apply immediately. Okay, this is the fashion which we are gonna follow in this lecture. So let us begin with our first selector, and the name of the selector is universal selector. So what this universal selector will do is that it will select all the things in the document, right? Let's say that here in a document, this is a HTML document, you are having h1 tag, anchor tag, something I'm taking as example, right? Paragraph tag, I'm having these things. Okay, now irrespective of what tag I'm having, what element I'm having, I want to give a universal styling to this particular page. So how you can do that? You can do that using a selector called as universal selector. So to implement universal selector, what you will do is that you will use this asterisk. This symbol is known as asterisk. Some people call it a star. So you will write star, opening bracket, and you will give some property. What property you want to change? Let's say you want to change the background color of your page. Then you will give background color and its corresponding value. And what this will do is that irrespective of what all the elements I'm having on my web page, irrespective of that, I will give a universal styling to the page. Right, so let me show you how a universal selector works. In my VS Code, I'm having index.html. In that, I'm having like this is the basic structure of my. Let me show you the HTML basic structure. H1 medium. After that, I'm having 2 buttons, login and sign up button, and we are having corresponding 2 inputs as my placeholders, username, password, and I'm having a list, ul, home, following, something like this. After that, I'm giving paras, right? So what I will do is that if I want to apply for this whole page, if I want to apply a universal styling, then I will go into my style. Here you can see that I have connected my page, my HTML page with my CSS. Like first of all, I have written link href is equals to style.css, rel is equals to style sheet. So I have connected my HTML page with my CSS page. Now I will go to my CSS page. In this document, I want to apply universal styling. I want to use universal selector. So in order to use a universal selector, first of all, I will write star symbol, opening bracket, closing bracket. I will enter. Now let's say that this is the document I'm having, right? So let me show you. So this is the document I'm having. Now I want to change the background color irrespective of what are the elements I'm having, irrespective of what is the irrespective of that. If I want to change the background color of my document, then I will use universal selector, right? So you can see that this is the initial page I'm having. Now what I will do is that in my universal selector, I will give background color. Let's say that I'm giving blue as my background color. Now I will save this and I will go to my page, and you can see that your whole page is having a background color blue. Like this, universal selector work irrespective of what are the elements you are having. It will give you a uniform styling to your whole web page, to that particular HTML document. So I will remove this. This is looking so bad. So I will remove universal selector. Similarly, we have another type of selector called as element selector. So what this will do is that, let's say that in a HTML document, I am having 3 h1 tags, 4 h3 tags, and 5 paragraph tags. This many tags I am having, and my goal here is whatever the paras I am having in this page, whatever the paragraph tags I am using. For this paragraph tags, irrespective of how many there are there, let's say I'm using 100 paragraph tags, 200 paragraph tags. So irrespective of the number, if I want to give a universal uniform style to a particular element, then I will use element selector. Here what I will do is that first of all I will write element, what element I wanna give, I wanna provide styling for. After that, opening bracket, same, right? So let me show you. This is the document I'm having, right? So yeah, this is the h1 document, HTML document, and in that you can see that I'm having h1 tag, one h1 tag, and h3 tag 1, 2, and 3. So in this document I'm having one h1 tag element, 3 h3 tags element. Okay, now I want to give a universal, or you can say a uniform styling for all the h3 elements. Then what I can do is that I will use element selector in this case. So I will go to my style.css and I will give h3, and this will select all the h3 tags, right? This element selector will select all the h3 tags in that particular HTML document. Now I want to change the background color. Let's say I want to change the background color as aqua, and color of the text, right, foreground color as black. Okay, I'm using as black. Now let me save and go to my document here. You can see that for all the h3 tags, this is a h3 tag, this is a h3 tag, like this I'm having 4 h3 tags. I haven't seen that in my code, but in the document I'm having 4 h3 tags, and for this 4 h3 tags, element selector will apply a uniform styling. This is about element selector. Similarly, we have a ID selector, right? We have another concept called as ID selector, and this selector will select an element based on the value of that element, value of that ID attribute. So let's say I'm having 10 h1 tags, okay, and I'm using a styling, a uniform styling for this 10 h1 tags using element selector. Now for the second h1 tag, I want to give separate styling. For this element, for one element only, for a specific element only, I want to give separate styling. So what I will do is that I will create a ID of that document, right? ID of that element, and after it I will use ID selector, and this ID selector will give a separate, a unique styling for that particular element. So let me show you what I mean. So here you can see that, to create a ID in your document, you can see that I'm having two buttons, right? In the document I'm having two buttons. This is button 1 and button 2, and you need to remember one thing here, that for a single element it can have a single ID only. Two elements cannot have same ID. In this case styling will not work. In this case it will give you an indirect error. In the compiler, if you go in the browser, it will show you that two elements are having same ID. So you cannot give same ID for two elements, right? And you might ask, oh Jabir, what is the logic to it, right? Why are we using ID attribute? So we are using ID attribute. Here you can see that I'm having only one login button, I'm having only one sign up button. So if we are having some unique elements, then for that unique elements we will use IDs, and this IDs represent that, okay, this is a unique element in itself. In a old document we don't have multiple login buttons, right? We don't have multiple logout buttons. So for a element which is unique, we will try to provide a ID to it, and this ID will specify, okay, this is a particular element. This will point, okay, whenever I'm giving ID is equals to login, then it will only point to this login button only. I hope you are with me, I hope you are getting it, right? So the thing you need to remember here is that we cannot give a single ID, we cannot give a single ID to multiple elements, or in other words, multiple elements cannot have a single ID. Okay, so here you can see that in the code I have created two buttons, and in that buttons I have given an attribute called as ID is equals to login, ID is equals to sign up. So for these two buttons I have given ID is equals to login, ID is equals to sign up. Now let's say here also I am creating another two buttons. Now I cannot give here ID is equals to login, right? I cannot give the same ID to two different buttons, right? You need to remember that a single element can have only one ID, and that should be unique. We cannot replicate that. Okay, I will move on this here. I don't want to spend all my time here. I hope you have understood. Okay, now I have created IDs to this button, right? The first button, login button, the name of that login button, the ID name of that button is login, and for second button, which is sign up button, I have given the ID name as sign up. Okay, now I will go in the document, I will give hashtag and login. So ID selector is represented by hashtag, and in that, let's say I want to change the background color of that button. So what I will do is that I will give background color. Let's say I am giving yellow, I will give yellow. Let's say that I want to give the color, the foreground color of that particular ID as black, so I will give black. Now for sign up button, we have another ID called as sign up, and for this button also I want to give the same style. What I can do here, so I don't want to write again hashtag sign up, right? Hashtag sign up and background color. I don't want to repeat lines because the styling, the inner styling for these two buttons is same. So what I will do is that I will remove this here, I will remove here, and I will come here and I will give sign up hashtag sign up, and I will give comma, right? Like this we can combine multiple elements. Similarly, let's say I want to give styling for my h1 tag also. So for element tag also I can give for multiple elements, in my HTML document. If the styling is same, then I can write here h1 comma h3. So these two elements will have the same styling. Okay, I hope you have understood. So I will save this and go to my document. You can see that now this h1 tag is having some styling, and if you observe these two buttons, button 1 and button 2, got the styling. Like this we will use id selectors, and like this we can apply styling for multiple elements at once. Now there is a concept called as class selector. What this class selector do is that, to understand class selector, let us take an example. Let's say that I have created a document, and in that document I am having div, and in that div I am having 5 paragraph tags and 5 anchor tags. Okay, I am having this totally 10 elements within this div. Okay, now I don't want to give separately. Okay, for p1 element the styling should be this, for anchor tag the styling should be this. I don't want to give styling separately for each and every element. So what I will do is that, if I want to give the same styling for a group of elements, then here I will write an attribute called as class is equals to, and I will give my class name, whatever the name I want to create, I will give that, and in the style sheet I will write dot, let's say my class name is Jabir. So here I will give dot Jabir, and I will give background color as black. Like this I will give. Now what will happen is that for this old class, the styling will get applied. Right, I hope you have understood. And another use case of class selector will be, let's say that in a document you are having 10 h1 tags or 3 h1 tags, h1. Now you are using h1 tag element selector, right? h1 element selector, and you will give property value, right? Like this you are giving some h1 tags. Okay, now you want a single h1 tag, a separate styling, right? For this, let's say for this first h1 tag I want different styling. So if I want to provide different styling, then what I will do is that I can create a separate id for this element, or I can give a separate class. And if I create a class to this element, then I will follow the properties of class. I hope you have understood. So the thing you need to remember is that class selector is used to give styling for a group of elements at once, right? I hope you are getting it. I hope you are with me. Okay, so let me show you what I meant. I have different buttons, right? You can see that I have button called as upvote. Let me go to the document. So I have button called as upvote and answer, and these buttons are repeating, right? Upvote and answer, I am repeating those buttons. So I don't want to give styling individually, right? I can write button and I will give styling here. I don't want to do that. So what I will do is that I will group all these elements using class. So I will give for all these elements, I will give class. Let us say that I am giving class for this upvote class. I am selecting all the upvote class, right? So whatever the upvote class I am having, I am selecting all of them at once. So to select multiple elements at once, there is a shortcut called as Ctrl+Shift+L. So I am using this, and I will add for all the buttons which are having upvote, I will give class is equals to, let's say the class name as user button, user click button, right? Or I can give click button. I don't want to drag it. Okay, so for all the upvote buttons I have given a class called as click button. Similarly, for all the answers I can give the same class. So I will choose all the answer buttons by Ctrl+Shift+L. You can choose multiple elements which are same. Basically you can see that here I am having answer button, here I am having answer button. So instead of going separately and giving class, I am choosing all of them at once. So this is a VS Code shortcut. Okay, so to choose same elements which are repeating in your HTML document, you will click Ctrl Shift L, and by clicking this you will choose multiple elements at once. Now what you will do is that here you will give the same class. Class is equals to, let's set my class name as click button. You will choose this. Now you can see that for all the buttons, for all the upward buttons and answer buttons, I have given a same class. Now in the style tag, in the style sheet, I will come here and I will write dot, and I will write my class name. What is my class name here? Click button is my class name. So I will write click button, curly bracket, like this. And what this document will do, what this class will do is that for all the buttons I will give same styling. So what you are basically doing is that you are grouping all the buttons in a single class. This is a work of class selector. Now what I will do is that, let's say I want to give background color as, let us see, Cora. So where is Cora, or medium? I want to see medium. Okay, this is the online publishing site. This is the Medium website, guys. So you can see that you have search, right button. So here let us go to a site and we have button, right? We have login button. Where is the login button? Okay, I have already logged in, but yeah, let me log out. So this is the button and they are having some styling black and white. So what I will do is that I will give background color. This will not look good when compared to Medium. This website is not that much good because we haven't studied all the concepts in detail. You can see that in Medium the buttons are coming in a round fashion, right? The buttons are not in square fashion. You can see that our website, the button are having some rectangle box, and this buttons are, you can see that these buttons are in some like oval form, because they are using some different styling. We will talk about that in the next chapter. Don't worry, no, we're gonna make beautiful websites here. Okay, anyways, I will come back to my code. Okay, so background color as black. I will give background color as black, and I will give, let's set the foreground color as white. So I will give white. Now after this, let's set I want to change the font style. So font family, let's set I will give some this styling. I will remove this. I just want only one font. Okay, so let me save and go to my document. This is the document I'm having, right? So let me zoom it out. Yeah, you can see that your buttons are now having similar fashion, right? The background is in black color, foreground text color is white. Like this, you can see that for all the buttons the styling has applied. Why this for this button, why styling has not applied? Let us see. You can see that for the last button the styling hasn't applied because there is no class here. So I will give class click button. Let me save and go to the site. Now you can see that for all the buttons you have applied styling. Like this you will use class selector. Now let us talk about another selector, and the name of the selector is Descendant Selector. So what this will do is that we have seen hierarchy, right? In HTML I have talked about how inheritance works. Okay, so for example, let's say that in a div, let's say this is a div. Inside div I'm having paragraph tags, paragraph 1, like this I'm having multiple paragraph tags. Now can I say that inside div they are 3 paragraph tags, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and for this 3 paragraph the parent element is div, right? So we can use Descendant Selector to give styling to all the descendants. Right here for div the descendants are this paragraphs, right? So if I wanna give styling to my descendant elements, then I can use Descendant Selector. So what I will do is that first of all I will write div p space p, and what this will define, what this tells us is that for div they are having a tag, element called as paragraph element, and for this paragraph element, whatever the styling you are providing, it will get applied to that particular descendant. I hope you have understood here, right? Similarly, let's say I'm having anchor tag, I'm having h1 tag. Now I'm just writing div p and I'm giving this. So what will happen is that for div, its descendants are paragraph, anchor tag and h1 tag, but the styling will get only applied to paragraph tag only because you are giving div p. Now if I want to apply my styling for my div p a h1, so what I will do is that for all these tags, if I want to give styling, then I will write div p a h1. So what this tells us is that for div, its descendant is paragraph tag, anchor tag and h1 tag, and for this three tags the styling should get applied. Whatever the styling you are giving, the styling should get applied correspondingly, respectively. Now in the HTML document, you can see that inside this paragraph I am having anchor tag, right? Jabir, I am having anchor tag, and similarly here also I am having like para, and in that para I am having anchor tag. So for this para I am having its descendant as anchor tag. Now for this anchor tag I want to change the styling. If you observe, you can see that for this tags, for this things, it is having blue color and underline. I want to change this thing. So what I will do is that I will come here and I will change text decoration as none. So what this will do is that it will remove the underline, and I want to change the color as, let's say I want to change the color as brown. So let me save and go to the page again. You can see that for this site, the anchor tag is now having brown color, and the underline, which is basically text decoration, has disappeared. Like this we use Descendant Selector. Now there is a concept called as combinators, which will like describe at what hierarchy they are doing, which will like demonstrate, okay, the hierarchy of CSS elements, right? The hierarchy of HTML elements. So combinators are used to combine multiple elements at once. And you know, whenever we give plus operators, what will happen is that h3 that comes immediate after paragraph. Let's say here I'm having a paragraph tag, in that I'm having three h3 tags, okay, h3 tags like this I'm having, right? So what it will do is that it will give styling to the immediate sibling, right? Here like this I'm having paragraph tag, right? So you know, this paragraph tag, h3 tags, all these tags are coming in the same level. This means that this different tags are sibling to one another. Now for the immediate h3 tag, let's say I want to give some styling, then what I will do is that I will write p plus h3. So this describes that paragraph h3 tag which is coming immediately after paragraph tag. For that element I want to give styling. Okay, I hope we have understood here, right? Here let's say in my document I am having different children's or different siblings, okay? Paragraph tag, h3 tag, there is a div, inside that div I am having paragraph tag, h3 tag, h1 tag. So this here, let me show you div, inside div, paragraph tag, h3 tag, h3 tag, okay? These are the elements I'm having, /div. Now inside the div, what are the children's? It is having paragraph, h3 and h3, right? Now when I write this p plus h3, what this tells us is that the h3 element which is coming immediately after paragraph tag. So here for this element styling will get applied, not for this element, because it is not coming immediately after. That is why for the second h3 the styling will not get applied immediately, okay? I hope you have understood. This is a work of combinators. It will combine multiple elements and it will point to a particular element. It will tell you, okay, for this element the styling should apply. Okay, so in the VS Code, in the HTML document, on the header, if you observe, right, first of all I am having h1 tag, right? After that I am having div, and after that I'm having nav. So can I say that h1 and div and nav are child, or you can say children of header tag? Here you can see that I'm having header and this is the parent for this h1, for this div, for this nav, right? Now what I want is that immediately after h1 there is a div tag, right? So can I say that h1 and div are sibling to one another? So what I want is that for that div, the div which is coming immediately after h1 tag, for this div I want to give some styling. So what I will do is that here I will write h1 plus div, and let's say I want to give in div what I'm having input boxes. So for input boxes I will give background color, let's say bisque color, some bisque kind of color. Okay, now I will give my text color which is foreground as black. Okay, so let me save, and what this will do is that for h1 the immediate div which is coming on this div, the styling would get applied. So let me go here and you can see that for this div, this is the div I am having, and for this entire div, no, the styling got applied. The div is in bisque color, right? The background of the div is bisque color, and yeah, this is the thing, background, the text is in coming black color. Like this we will apply, we will use Combinator, and this the name of this Combinator is child selector. Now in combinators, the next combinator is child selector. So what this will do is that it will select all the basically elements which are directly coming as children. So you might ask, what is the difference between child combinator and a descendant selector? So let's say that I'm taking example, this I don't want to create a confusion here. So here I'm having paragraph tag, and inside that paragraph tag I'm having anchor tag \p and \div. Now for this I'm giving div and p, and I'm using descendant selectors and giving some properties. So div is having para and para is having anchor tag, as this is the flow, right? This is the inheritance flow. Now when I use descendant selector, it will inherently give styling to anchor tag also. Okay, but child combinator, what child combinator will give is that it will only give for that particular element. Let's say that I am giving div and p, and I am giving some styling here, like this I am giving. So what will child combinator will do is that it will only consider these two things. It will only give styling to this paragraph tag. That's all. This is the difference between a descendant selector and a child combinator. Okay, now let me show it to you. Let me show it in VS Code. So in the HTML code, you will see that inside span tag I'm having buttons, right? This is button 1, button 2, something like that I'm having, right? So what I want is that for this span, which is a parent element, inside that parent element I'm having button. Okay, so for this buttons, let's say that I wanna give styling the color of that button, the color, let's say that the font family, at least font style or font weight. Let's say that I wanna change the font weight as bolder. Okay, so whatever the text it is having, I wanna make the text as bolder. Okay, so what this will do is that I'm having span, inside that but I'm having buttons. So it will only change to the first child, and button will have some anchor tags, right? So it will not check for anchor tags. So let me go here and show it to you. You can see that the buttons are in bold format. You can see that the buttons which are here are in bold format. Like this we use child combinator. Similarly, we have attribute selectors. So what attribute selectors will do is that, let's say I'm having input type is equals to something you have given, right? Type is equals to some value, and for this value you wanna apply some styling. So what you will do is that first of all you will write input square bracket EATTR, whatever the attribute. Let's say you wanna give type is equals to some value, right? So you will write type is equals to some value here, and you will give corresponding property. So what this will do is that it will select elements based on the presence or the value of that given attribute. Okay, so let me show it to you how this will work. So let's say that in this document, yeah, this is the document, right? If I go up, you can see that I'm having two inputs. Input is equals to text, input is equals to password. So what I will do is that I will create a attribute selector. Here I will write attribute selector input, and in the square brackets I will give the attribute, what type of attribute I am creating. Type is equals to text, and for this I will give, let's say I am giving background color as bisque. Now the foreground color as black, okay, or blue. Let us give blue. Similarly, if I want to add another attribute selector, then I can also write input and square bracket. Let's say that I'm giving another element here, type is equals to password, right? So I will give type, copy this, and come here and paste it here. Now let me save and go to your page. You can see that your input boxes has changed now, right? And if you type your text, then the text will come in blue color. Like this, you can use attribute selectors. For input boxes, you can use attribute selectors. And if I want to give here the color as green or yellow, let us give yellow. Now if I come here and if I type here in yellow, then you can see that the text is coming in yellow color. It is not looking good, but yeah, this is how input selector works. You know, this is a little bit important concept. The name of the concept is pseudo class. So pseudo class is a keyword that is added to a selector. Let's say there is a button. Now for button is a element selector, right? When I'm writing button and opening bracket, curly bracket, it shows that I'm using element selector. Now what pseudo class will do, it is a keyword which will tell you what state. If you want to create a special state, for example, you know, you have a page. In the page you are having a button, and the button will look something in a square box or something like that, default fashion, right? Now what you want is that whenever you hover over a button, or whenever you are changing, whenever you are clicking a button, you want something to happen. You want some animations to come, or you want to change the background color of that button. So to create this kind of things, you use a concept called as pseudo class. Okay, and pseudo class will change the state of that particular element. Okay, now for example, let's say that there is a button. Here I'm having button. In a page, initial stage is that button is looking in a rectangle format. Now whenever I'm taking my cursor, putting on top of this button, I want to change the background color of this button. Whenever I'm hovering over this button, I want to change the background color of that button. I can do that using the concept of pseudo class. So let me show you how it will work. So here what I will do is that let's say for button, let's say I'm hovering over a button, so I will give hover, and whenever I hover over a button, I want to change the color, the background color of that button. Then I will give background color as, let's say that blue, and the foreground color, I want to change the color of the button, then I will give yellow. Now let me save it and I will go to my page, and you can see that I'm having different buttons, right? And now whenever this is my cursor, you can see that this is my cursor. Now whenever I hover over a button, you can see that the background color of that button is becoming blue, and the text on that button is becoming yellow. Like this, pseudo class will work. Ask Jabir, you know, whenever I hover over upward button, answer button, it is working, my hover property is getting working here. But whenever I hover over this login and sign up button, why my hover property is not working? Because the properties are not working here because there is a concept called as specificity and cascading. We will talk about that in few minutes, but for now you need to understand that here we are using id, and whenever we use id attribute, it has more weightage. Okay, I will talk about that in few minutes, but yeah, you need to remember that there is a concept called as cascading and significance. Significance, specificity. Because of these two concepts, the hover property is not working on these two buttons, but in all the buttons the hover property is working. Similarly, I have a property called as button active, and this will tell, okay, whenever I click on the button I want to change something, the state of the button, right? So I will write, let's set font weight as, let's say, bolder, right? I want to change the font to lighter, very lighter. Okay, now font family to, let's say, I'm giving some monospace. Okay, I want to change the light font weight and font family whenever I click on the button. Clicking is nothing but I'm activating the button. Okay, so let me save and go to the document. Now what I will do is that I will, whenever I hover, my hover property will work. Whenever I click, you can see that the styling of the button is getting changed. Let me also change the background color. So here I will change the background color. Let's say I'm changing to red, right? So let me come back, and whenever I'm activating the button, you can see that the color of that button is getting changed in, right? I hope you have understood what active button will do. Similarly, we have another property. What the property? Checked. So checked is used to it will get applied on radio buttons. Let's say you are creating checkboxes, right? There is a concept called as checkbox and radio buttons. Now whenever you are choosing an option in radio buttons, you are choosing an option, right? Whenever you are choosing an option, when you click on check, you want to change something, then you will use check property there. I hope you have understood what is the meaning of pseudo class and why we use it. Like pseudo class, we have another similar type of concept called as pseudo elements, and it is also a keyword added to a selector that adds specific part of the selected elements. Let's say that in a paragraph you are having my name is Jabir, right? You are giving this. Now you want to change a particular part in your old HTML tag. Let's say I want to change my as red. Then what you will do is that you will use pseudo element concepts, right? In this we are having first letter, first line, selection. These are the three important ones, right? And let us see how it will work. Now in the HTML document I am having different paragraph tags, right? Different paragraph tags, h3 tags. Now what I want is that whenever I hover over a paragraph tag, whenever I go on paragraph tag and perform some operations, then let's say I want to change the selection to background color. Let's say I am giving yellow. Now what this will do is that this is my paragraph tag, right? This is my paragraph tag. Now whenever I choose this, you can see that the selection is coming in yellow color, right? Like this we will use. Come back, yeah, let me refresh this thing. Yeah, you can see that like this we will choose elements. Now if you hover on medium, it will come normally, but when you hover on a paragraph, you can see that the styling is coming in a different format. Like this you will use pseudo elements. I hope you have understood why we use pseudo elements to change a particular selected part. There are two important concepts called as cascading and specificity. So cascading and specificity are two CSS algorithms which will tell on what elements what styling will happen, will get applied. So here cascade in CSS means the CSS cascade algorithm. This is basically a algorithm which will tell what CSS will get applied on different elements, right? For example, let me show you a simple example here. I will go to a compiler. Let's say that here I am having HTML compiler. I am opening a compiler. Now in the compiler, here let's say HTML CSS compiler. HTML CSS compiler. Okay. Now in the compiler, this is the compiler I am having, right? Okay. Now what I want is that this is my dockers. Okay. Now in this body, I will remove all this. I don't want script, anything like that. Now I will write h3 tag. In the h3 tag, I will write \h3. My name is Jabir Hussain. Okay, I am writing this. Now I have attached my CSS file with this. Now in the CSS file, I will remove all this. I will write h3. Let's set background color as okay, blue, and color, foreground color as yellow. Okay, yellow. Now similarly for the next element, I am giving for the same element. Okay, h3 background color as, let's set black, my foreground color as yellow. Now my question is, for the same element, I am giving two different CSS properties. Okay, so the first h3 tag is telling that okay, the background should be blue and the foreground color should be yellow. Now the second styling, the second element is telling that okay, the background color should be black and the foreground color should be yellow. Now here comes the question, which property should my CSS follow? And the answer is the property which is coming at last. That property will be followed by our CSS file. You might ask why. The only reason, the simple answer to this is there is a concept called as cascade algorithm, and the cascade algorithm will tell you that if the priority of all the elements is same and you are writing multiple styling for the same element, we will talk about priority, but yeah, you can consider that for h3 tag. Okay, if the priority in your file is same and you are writing multiple times styling for the h3 tag, you can see that here I am writing multiple times. I am giving multiple times styling for the same element. Now when I run this, now you can see that, let me run this. Where the output, okay, you can see that your output is my name is Jabir Hussain and the background color is blue and black and the foreground color of text is yellow, because the last, at the last of the CSS file, which one is coming, that one will get accepted by your cascade algorithm, and that is what get followed by your CSS file. I hope you have understood. The cascade will tell you that the job of cascade is to select the CSS declaration in order to determine the correct values of CSS properties. So in the example which I have shown you, I have given for the same element two different stylings, two different values. Now here comes the dilemma, right? CSS will not understand. If there is no cascade algorithm, then CSS will not understand which one to choose. So for the same element, I am giving two styling, and if there was no cascade algorithm, then CSS will not get applied for elements, for your element. So what cascade algorithm will do is that the element which is coming at last, that element should have the finalized styling. That styling should be proceeded. That styling we should follow. I will tell that. I hope you have understood what is cascade algorithm. Now if you want to study about cascade algorithm, then you can do that by googling it simply. Let us talk about another really important concept, and if you don't understand this concept now, I don't think so like you will become a good front-end developer. Okay, and the name of the concept is selector specificity. So in selectors we have different types of selectors, right? We have class selector, we have ID selector, element selector, child selector. Like this we have different types of selectors. Now in CSS, what we did is that we have created an algorithm called as specificity algorithm, and this algorithm will tell which element should hold the highest priority, and the element which holds the highest priority, that element, that corresponding styling will get applied. Okay, so here the highest priority we are having is first of all ID. This is the highest priority we are having. Now after ID we will get class, attribute, pseudo class. Like this, these are the secondary priority, right? This is the first highest priority, this is our secondary priority, and this is our third priority, this is our least priority, right? I hope you have understood. Let me show you. If it is little bit confusing, let me show you. So what I will do is that I will come here in my VS Code, I will come and I will give a ID as ID is equals to, let me give as head. So this is the ID I have given. Okay, now in the styling I will give here hashtag head. Okay, so for this I have here in the CSS I have used an ID attribute, which is basically ID selector and the element selector. Now if you go with cascading algorithm will tell you that at the last which element or which styling is coming, that styling should get proceed. Now if you don't know the concept of specificity, then you will assume that okay, the output should be, the background will be black and the text will be yellow, but the answer is no. Even though we are giving styling for the same element at last, but ID has the highest priority. That is why when I run this code now, you will see that the background color will be blue now, and CSS will choose this thing, not this, because of specificity algorithm. And specificity algorithm tells you that the ID has the highest priority after class, after element selector, general element selector. Like this, you need to remember that if you are using ID, then you should be very careful with what element you are doing. Okay, I hope you are very clear. Now this is the priority. You need to remember that first ID selector has the highest priority, after class, after element selector. Now if you want to read this concept in detail, then you can use MDN. In MDN you will find the in detail concept, and within MDN you can also find about specificity. Really important to understand. Okay, so the last concept of this lecture, which is important, and important will tell you, or it is used to show the most important thing in your document, right? So for example, let's say that here in the CSS you have created, right? Now I am giving for h1, let's set background color as, okay, let us say that I want to change the font family, right? Font family as Times Roman, and I want to make this h1 tag as important, then I will give important here. Okay, now what this will do is that I will make this thing as important, and after, let's say I am changing here h1, I am changing the font again. So let me change the font family, and let's say I am giving some monospace. Okay, so let me save and go here. This is my compiler, right? You can see that the font is not getting changed. So what important will do is that it will tell it will give the highest priority. In specificity, this will give the highest priority, and if you give element as important, then throughout the CSS it will not get changed. I hope you have understood. Now if I remove important here, let me remove important here and save this and go to the document, you can see that the document is becoming monospace. The heading of this is becoming monospace. Now if I give here important again, then the styling will not change. Whatever you do with h1 tag, it will remain the same because you have given it the highest priority. Important will tell you, will indirectly indicate that this tag has the highest priority, and whatever you are doing in your HTML or CSS document in future, it will not get changed. Whatever you do, the styling of this particular element will not get changed because you have given the thing as important. Okay, I hope you have understood. So this is the thing we have created, right? So this is the basic page which we have tried to design, or at least give the styling to this. So again, the lecture is becoming 1.5 hours, and I know that initially if you are very new to CSS, then it might be a little bit confusing, but just go to a website called as MDN Selector, right? Selector, and you can see that you will get a website called as MDN Selector, and here you will get each and every concept related to selector. What is a hover selector, empty selector? I told you, right? There are n number of selectors, and these are the selectors, right? Next sibling, child selector. In child selector we have different things, right? These are the different things, and MDN provides you different sample codes, and you will try it out. And believe me when I say that web development is kind of a field in which how many times I tell you and how many times you might have listened, but if you don't do it by yourself, then you will not understand it. It is not like DSA. In DSA, if I am telling you clearly this is what the concept is, then you will keep this in your mind and you will go out and you will go to exam or your interview directly because you have that in your head. But in development, selectors is a very broad topic. The one topic, selector, we might have hundreds of different types of selectors, and in that 100 types you have different categories of selectors, right? So it is really impossible, it's hard to cover all the things. So I have covered which are the ones necessary. I have covered the ones which are necessary. Okay, now whenever you get a doubt, now come to MDN. MDN is a website where every developer use. You can find every good developer in MDN. Okay, and in order to become a good developer, you need to come in the playing field, play the game, and that's how you will become a good developer. Okay, so I will stop here, and I hope you have understood the overall concept of what selector is, how selector works. So with that being said, I will see you in the next one.